Hello, everyone. In this segment of the lecture, I'm going to discuss the consequences of the partition of India. Particularly, the very significant consequence was the birth of Bangladesh in 1971. Among the many consequences of partition of India that took place in 1947, some of the issues are still unresolved. The Kashmir question is still unresolved. And on the question of Kashmir, there was war between India and Pakistan. For example, the 1947-48 Indo-Pakistan First Kashmir War, 1965 Indo-Pakistan War won over Kashmir. 1999 there was a Kargil War, again it was over Kashmir. Finally, the Bangladesh Liberation War or the Bangladesh War of Independence took place in 1971 and Bangladesh emerged in 1971. The Awami League leader, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who won the general election by a majority in 1970, was denied the election result by the West Pakistan government. Instead, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was declared rebel by West Pakistan. Bengali units in the Pakistani Army and police force were disarmed. West Pakistan declared war against the people of East Pakistan on 25th March 1971, and it carried genocide against the people of Bangladesh from 25th March 1971 to 16th December 1971. During the Bangladesh War of Independence from 26th March to 16th December 1971, the Hindus were constructed as Pakistan's enemy, and it was a popular military and political narratives among the Pakistani Army. Some Biharis sought protection from Pakistani Army due to their Islamic identity, and also they spoke the same language, Urdu. So the Pakistani military personnel considered them as one of us, like one of the Pakistani people who spoke the same language. In 1971, the Pakistani Army during the Bangladesh Liberation War had some Bangladeshis and some Biharis who helped them during the Bangladesh Liberation War. Al-Badr, Al-Shams, they were local Bengalis and Bihari militias, and together with the Pakistani Army, they committed atrocities against their fellow nationalist Bengalis. They attacked villages and all sorts of atrocities against the Bangladeshi people. Hindu, Muslim, Bengali asylum seekers migrated across the borders of India, and there are so many migration stories that is still being shared by the survivors. Raunak Jahan, in her book chapter Genocide in Bangladesh, published in the edited book of Century of Genocide, Eyewitness Accounts and Critical Views, published in 2012, she discussed some of the incidents that happened during the Liberation War, during the time of genocide committed by the Pakistani military against the people of Bangladesh. So there was religious intolerance. Bengalis were perceived as Hindus and forced to say the kalima, the first pillar of Islam. There was molestation of women, rape, robberies, harassment and crimes, and many more atrocities. There was overseas voices and that raised awareness of the people internationally of the genocide being committed by the Pakistani military in Bangladesh. For example, the Pakistani journalist Anthony Mascarenhas, in his report Genocide, published on the Sunday Times, UK, on 13th June 1971, provided a graphic description of the crimes he witnessed during his 10-day visit to Bangladesh. It revealed that the intention of the Pakistani military was mass killing of the Bengalis. Mascarenhas said, quote, "We are determined to cleanse East Pakistan once and for all of the threat of secession, even if it means killing of 2 million people and ruling the province as a colony for 30 years." Quotation closed. I was repeatedly told by the senior military and civil officers in Dhaka and Kumilla in Bangladesh. Mascarenhas also stated that the then Pakistani government's policy for the Bangladeshis contained 3 elements. Number 1, the Bengalis have proved themselves unreliable and must be ruled by West Pakistanis. Number 2, the Bengalis will have to be re-educated along proper Islamic lines, the Islamization of the masses. Number 3, when the Hindus have been eliminated by death and flight, their property will be used as a golden carrot to win over the underprivileged Muslim middle class. This is what Mascarenhas had written in his report in the Sunday Times that was published in UK. Besides Mascarenhas, there were other officials, other dignitaries. For example, the Consul General of the United States in Dhaka, Archer Blood, he sent a confidential telegram to the Secretary of State Henry Kissinger in Washington, D.C. The telegram was titled Secret Genocide, and he sent it on 28 March 1971. Archer Blood stated, "Here in Dhaka, we are mute and horrified Archer Blood stated, "Here in Dhaka, we are mute and horrified to a reign of terror by the Pak Army." Archer was shocked by the horrors the Pakistani Army committed against the Bangladeshis, including politicians, intellectuals, students, and Hindus. The U.S. Consul General Archer asked the U.S. government to at least express shock at the atrocities committed by the government of Pakistan. However, he was surprised at the indifference of U.S. foreign policy, which continued to support Pakistan. And it was the time of Cold War when Pakistan was an ally of the United States. However, there have been other delegates and dignitaries overseas. They alerted the world of the genocide that was being committed by the Pakistani Army in Bangladesh. And one of them was Senator Edward Kennedy, the US Senator Edward Kennedy, who visited even India and surveyed the situation and returned to the United States and raised awareness about the situation in Bangladesh. India was an ally of Bangladesh, and India helped Bangladesh during the time of their need in 1971. India's relief agencies such as Omega Team set up to help the refugees. Bengali military training took place in India. Mukti Jodha Bahini resorted to different tactics such as guerrilla warfare against the Pakistani military. During the 9 months of the Liberation War, as I said, the Pakistani Army committed genocide against the people of Bangladesh. During the 9-month period of massacre in Bangladesh, research has found about 3 million people were killed. Pakistani soldiers raped between 200,000 and 400,000 girls and women, and about 25,000 women became pregnant. About 1 million people took shelter in India as refugees, and many people faced trauma and ordeal in Bangladesh during the genocide period carried out by the Pakistani military against the Bangladeshis. Different opinion on the non-combatant casualties. Sometimes the collaborators, perpetrators, killed the non-combatant Bengalis because they feared their own deaths. Bengali women were tortured because they wanted to punish their men. Bengali women were raped. Women were imprisoned in sex camp. And as discussed, there were tortures from Bengalis too. They killed members from the Bengali community. There was rape and torture of some Bihari women and West Pakistani women. Some Biharis were interned in the internment camp. Raunak Jahan, in her work, she stated that the Bengalis retaliated by attacking many non-Bengalis, mostly Biharis. Bengalis believed that the Biharis worked as informants to the Pakistani soldiers. However, the Biharis also became victims of acts of violence committed by the Bengalis. So, this was the type of tortures that happened during the 9-month period during the Liberation War of Bangladesh. There are reports published on war crimes in the newspaper. So the list on 1,597 war criminals responsible for mass killings and other atrocities, mass killings, rapes, and atrocities during the war. Clinic of rape victims was set up in the heart of Dhaka city called Sada Bahar on 8th February 1972. It operated for 6 months. A rehabilitation center called Nari Punarbashan was set up to assist victims. Many women, Bengalis and Biharis, were silenced and forced to forget by different forces. They internalized oppression within Bangladesh to suppress rumors and gossips. The term Birangana, brave woman, was coined in 1972 by Prime Minister Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. He officially acknowledged the women who were violated during the war as brave women. There are many sad stories, personal stories of the Bangladeshis who fled to Assam during the War of Liberation, and they shared their ordeal during of that period, how they became homeless and how they um, moved to Assam. Again, there are stories of the impact of war on people, the sense of homelessness and loss. Minority grievances are still unheard. So there are Camp Geneva internment camps for the Biharis, and the minority legacies continues. The War of 1971 was a tragedy that affected young, old Bengalis, some Biharis, Muslims, Hindus, Christians, and Buddhists. The book by Saskia, titled Women, War, and the Making of Bangladesh, Remembering 1971, that should be useful to learn about the stories of the victims and the survivors during the liberation war. There was a joy of victory, but along the process, many people suffered in many ways. Finally, this picture shows the joy of victory, and it is titled The Bloody Birth of Bangladesh, and this is the cover page of Time magazine, published on 16 December 1971. Thank you.